the biggest strength of yours, the impatience with the existing order of things, did not last. So you vacated this space and others are making money. Did you leave this space early?
You know, one of the things which is not understood or probably we've not been able to communicate is there is only one reason we had to quit the business, and that's a very, very bad regulation. Honestly, I'm not making excuses. A regulation which says that you have to hold 51% of the business always. And it was only that. If I as an entrepreneur could have diluted down to 10, 15%, we would still be fully in control of our company. So it is only because of an utterly draconian regulation. I don't think it exists anywhere in the world. It is so anti-first generation entrepreneur. It is so pro-monopoly and pro-industry that it's unbelievable. But you know, that's the way it is. So Infosys became a multi-billion-dollar company because Nandan and Narayan Murthy could come down to 7% each. We couldn't do that. And I can tell you from a first-generation founder's point of view, if you can't dilute below 51, then either you decide to remain small, or there comes a stage where you have to exit. There is no other. There's no third option.
Bhaskar, I've got a follow-up question on that. I'm going to add to that. Ronnie, you don't have that constraint of being below 51%. That is something that you gave up long back. Do you think, in hindsight, especially with what's happening today, and the fact that UTV is not getting into, I mean, there's a pause button that has been pressed over there, etc. Do you think, are there regrets? Do you think that you left a little too early?
No. Firstly, and I want to clarify, I don't believe in hindsight. Because the problem with hindsight is that you kind of simulate the entire environment to what it is today, thinking everything would work exactly where you were going to work. And that never happens. So there's no point me saying that in 1991, 1992, I should have boarded the plane instead of visionary Subhash Chandra and gone to Li Ka-shing and started the whole satellite television boom. And therefore, I missed out on that thought process. Because I could have been bankrupt and in debt worse than most other people. So I think we need to draw the parallel that hindsight and rewinding the clock, not just in media, but in life, it doesn't work. Because you never know what the other situations and all the other crisscrosses. Specifically for me, I don't believe in hindsight, but if I were to, and there's no question about the fact that there was any regret or a thought process of timing. Because actually, firstly, everyone thinks exits can be timed, and the fact is they cannot be. There's no such thing. I challenge anyone to figure out that an exit can be timed. It doesn't work in that context. And frankly, if you originate the context, you're firstly at half the value in the first place, because the beauty has to be in the eye of the beholder in most cases. And I think that's the important part. So I think serendipity, being open, being in the right place at the right time, which means actually creating environments, multiple environments for you to be in the right place at the right time is very important.
Sure.
Now, just one clarification.
Sure.
It is not about hindsight. I said, if impatience, not in a pejorative way, but in a positive way, which has kept you going, or is it that after impatience, when you start, the legacy mindset sets in, the hubris of success, when you suddenly become like Microsoft and a lot of other companies. So it happens, is it that perpetuality of startup mentality has been lost somewhere on the way, so you vacate this space?
No, I think personally for me, what I'm doing with Upgrad, what I'm doing with our sports, what I'm doing with Swadesh, what I'm doing with things are as exhilarating as was when we started with UTV. They're all different alphabets, but all starting with U.
Not RSVP though. I'm going to ask you, Raghav. I think the triangle of Indian media is Dr. Roy and the two of you. It's really the three.
No, that's only because we all stood in the first line of Doordarshan the first time. That's the only that's the only commonality.
But having said which, it was really the beginning of a new era. Really, editor promoters who went with the vision and the passion of the subject and took it on.
I want to add, Arun Puri was also in the line.
Yeah, but he also inherited a large chunk of the publishing. But he's also, and that's my next question, because those old family-owned businesses are the last men standing. If you look at, Avik Sarkar, you look at Subhash Chandra, etc. But the day you took off that hat, Raghav, and became a businessman and wanted to create a media empire, do you think that was the folly? If you had kept CNBC, TV18 the way it was with a CNN, IBN perhaps, and been in news, because that's the space you understood intrinsically, would this have been a very different conversation?
Well, our biggest success was Colors. That's got nothing to do with news.
Yeah.
So, no, you know, at some stage you have to make a choice. And as Ronnie's saying, hindsight is a very easy thing. And a lot of these things, you know, you think you plan nothing. I mean, Viacom, the fact that they were willing to sell 50% of their company, we didn't plan that. They came and they talked to us. Yes, we took a foolish bet and said, you know, let's put all the money that we have in there. And then it worked. No, so I think the choice is, can you become large? For me, that was
Why was it so important?
Well, you know,
I mean,
it's a personal choice for everyone, right? You could have stayed, if you had stayed at CNBC, which was generating close to 50, 60 crores of cash when we decided to take the plunge into all other businesses, we would have been very solid, we would have been very wealthy, but we would have been tiny. So the leap from 1 channel to 35 channels when I exited the business, and that happened in 8 years. I think, you know, that was the fun. In hindsight, you can say I should have been more calibrated and, you know, but you thought you'll come out of it. You did not.
But
So,
you know, a lot of the media empires are built over 2 decades, 3 decades. I mean, nobody's done it in 8
a
years.
lot of them also get built much.
Now,
Zuckerberg has built it. If you call him a media company, Zuckerberg's done it in 5 years.
And that's the new paradigm shift, of course.
No, really. It's honestly, it's everyone has to make their own choices. And my choice was, some options came. Did we plan for them? No. Would we have said no when they came? No. And then we went along with the flow, and we did a few things right. And I continue to maintain that.
Sure.
Our problem was 51%. I had no desire to exit the business. I was very happy to continue, but I couldn't fund the 51%. Couldn't. In that sense, maybe we should have been
Ronnie,
slow.
When I was interviewing you for the book, you mentioned that, you know, the first generation entrepreneur has a limited, set of options when you have to really put in more equity. In hindsight, if you look at the media empire today, you know, I mean, what's also happened is that the complexion of the media empire has changed, where you have the old guard, which is really the family-owned, old way of doing things kind of businesses, and you have the new corporate money that has come in. You know, what happens to entrepreneurs like you? I mean, if they want to come back into the space, is there room for them? And what is your advice to people?
I think it's a profitable model. I think it's happening across. It's not just in media. If there's a profitable model, you're going to do that. Otherwise, what you're seeing today in most of the people that are starting enterprises, they're already down to 10, 15%, having done 3 and 4 and 5 rounds, because the badge of honor has become how much of money will you raise.
So it's become easier now.
No,
you think in that
no,
context?
I think it'll have its massive
No,
correction point, because in retrospect, equity is the most expensive thing you're ever going to part with. Because otherwise, what are you working for? You become an entrepreneur, and you're thinking, I'm going to become an entrepreneur because I want to work for myself and I want to create wealth. And then actually, when you're down at 15 and 20%, which is I think what most of the all new companies are at that level, and soon will be even less, it's a fine line.
So who do you think has been the most successful in the Indian media business?
Well, I
The
think,
Jains,
well, I don't know, there's a camera going on here. So, and you know, in the past I've seen a lot of people have had lots of challenges for that. I think there are a lot of them.
yeah?
And in each state, and we're a multi-state, south, north, east, west. I think Subhash Chandra has done an excellent job.
Yeah.
He's really done something visionary. He's built a really large, and you know, I think that's more. I mean, not first generation as an entrepreneur, but first generation in media. I think it takes a lot.
Sure.
Obviously, you know, the Bennett Coleman Group has its own thought process and how they grow, and they've come with a strong legacy. But it's an incredible legacy that they built over a period of time. And then you have major pockets of regional ones that I can't even deliver. But you know, if you look at all of them, they'll all come back to the news space. And I think media is a bit larger than just the news space. It's like movies takes a lot of bandwidth and
news takes a
attention,
lot
but
of
it's actually 9% of the pie
Sure.
of overall media and entertainment. And I think entertainment is a large pie of the broadcasting pie, but news takes a little bit more of the perception
Raghav,
issue.
who do you think is,
Well, yeah.
who do you look at and say, nice?
No, in my mind, I don't have any doubt, because what Subhash Chandra has done is extraordinary. You know, he did not come from a media background. The others are all media people. Therefore, they had years to build. He came in, in the early 90s to take a $5 million bet on a transponder. It was an exceptional bet. And then he built Z the way Z was built. For a media company, and when I look at that, and I realize that we couldn't do it, and possibly because we tried to do it in 8 years, what he did over 20 years.
Sure.
From every year, Z has made profits. Every year, they've made profits. And I think that's exceptional. To grow profitably over 25 years as he has, and then to create a platform which is global.
Sure.
They launched Z, Spanish language Z in America the other day.
So the moral of the story is Western bent people like us don't have a place. A Marwari approach in media would
I was
would go the
coming
best
towards
way.
that. I was trying to see how to say it.
No, so I think he's been a true disruptor. No question
Yeah,
about it.
making money in the business is tough. Okay, so
course it
a
is.
lot
In any
of
business.
a lot of focus is now going into creating co-branded content, and looking at, and to be fair, CNBC did its bit over there, and I know we did, and that was because you were creating an industry. You were creating a platform to bring different stakeholders, and Emerging India was a classic example of really collaborating with an ICICI Bank and creating a huge platform. And sometimes it's great, but the perception today is that because of the way the complexion of the media industry has changed, Raghav, that there are a lot of skeptics out there, and honestly, because of the TRP madness that we are seeing, I mean, I can't watch news most of the time, and that's a confession. I think a lot of people over here will share that view. Now the point is that can you have straitjacketed, good, solid, reportage-based journalism today when the business model has changed completely?
So this is coming down to branded content on digital platforms, because this is a debate that the last 2 years I've been very clear about, and I'm not apologetic about it at all, because I think what gets missed out is that as the architecture of businesses change, formats change with architecture. I don't think this is sort of appreciated enough or debated enough. When the newspaper was the dominant news dissemination medium, the dominant form of revenue earning was the 30-column centimeter or the 40-column centimeter. When the newspaper business got disrupted by television news, clearly you can't put 30-column centimeters on TV. A static screen no one's going to watch. The format of revenue acquisition became the 30-second commercial. Nobody said anything at that point in time that this is not ethical or whatever. Now the major consumption format for news is this handheld device, which is a very tiny screen. You can't do a 30-column centimeter on this. You can't do a 30-second commercial on this. So as the architecture of dissemination changes, the format of revenue acquisition has to change. It's a law. It's happened before. And therefore, the way revenues will come on digital news is branded content. So I don't see any ethical dilemma here at all. I think you have to be very clear in telling your consumer that this is branded content and this is news.
And fair enough, that is one piece of the issue. The other is the titillating content, which is created only to get TRPs. Because everything, and let's face it, digital is also about eyeballs.
Oh, digital is, absolutely.
Yeah, so what happens to the real
all media
journalism?
is about eyeballs.
Yeah,
Now,
but
No. So listen, we do some. I don't believe that journalism has hit rock bottom or anything like that. I mean, at the Quint, we do very serious pieces. We've just done 2 major stings on cow smuggling in Haryana. One showing that actually it's the Hindus who are doing it, and the story was posted only yesterday, and it's running away. That's very serious journalism. There's no titillation there. But yes, we also do titillation, because you are providing a broad spectrum choice to your consumer. And if you wish to be in a vertical political light space, that's a choice. We've chosen to be a broad spectrum platform. Politico is doing very well. Scroll is a very fine site. It's chosen to be in a vertical, and that's fine. And they do some very high quality journalism. So I don't think that there is an all-round debasing at all. Some very, very serious stuff. Look at Caravan's journalism. It's very serious journalism.
But they are the few exceptions.
Well, there always will be that. I mean, how many
Ronnie,
good films are made?
You've always been one for content, and for you, disruption has been about innovation and not necessarily titillation. And I think that's been something that you have often spoken about. I'm going to ask you, what do you make of what's happening in the news media space as a viewer? I mean, do you think this is laziness, that you're going with formulas and nobody has really innovated out there apart from, perhaps one person who has, become the benchmark now?
See, I think we're a lot of people who are very close to this whole media industry philosophizing here in a very different environment, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, the audience is the one that's going to dictate whatever they're going to dictate, right? So if somebody's winning the war on TRPs based on whatever they want to necessarily communicate and do, one cannot disrespect or disregard that. Number two, everyone will have different models, and you want that diversity in the entire space.
But where are the different
No,
models?
but I think we need to, again, it's back to my situation of, Flipkart was there and everyone said, hurrah, and now when Flipkart feels is getting revalued, everything is negative. There was never everything positive and there's never anything negative in that thought process. So you'll find a mix, but with each mix, different people and different news communications are still opening up a market. Okay, so I think if there's been a crescendo of some stalls and you've got 2 anchors that are doing this and 3 anchors who are doing that, the market is opening up. More people are looking at that thought process. So you ask me as a consumer, I think there's nothing wrong with it. I think it's just a lot of us here having very preconceived notions and putting ourselves into sandboxes. I think it should be very open. I think integrity of information and news is absolutely critical and important. But today, what has happened with the digital medium is it's completely democratized. So you can choose to figure out, and 99, for choosing a hotel today, we're not taking a marketing ad. We're finding out about 20 people who've been to that hotel or not.
Yes.
Now you can say 19 of them can bitch it out and the whole Hilton group can go bankrupt by just bad word of mouth. But I'm saying that's the environment in which we live in. So I think we need to take a little bit of a broader view than all of us 700 evolved people in media saying, oh, this is not.
Even more easier
Yeah,
to do, right?
the sheer plurality.
Yeah, there's a lot.
You can't stack an argument in one direction today. You can't.
Yeah.
You can't because of the sheer plurality.
People have taken news and put it into a debate format. Okay, that we can't understand the debate is a different point of view. But obviously somebody does.
Or you come just for the fun of it.
Yeah.
I mean, you are assuming that
And
everyone
that's the pity. It's an entertainment.
No. Maybe the housewife wants that because there's nothing to have a conversation at the dinner table, maybe. I don't know what the conversation, whatever it may be. Each one to their own.
We won't go there. We won't go there.
It's just fun.
Content is the king, you strongly believe, and I think Pipe is going to be free, definitely. Pipe is already becoming free, and that's why the Verizon is buying Yahoo, and I'm sure AT&T is looking for it, and in India also Pipe is going to be free. Then, if you guys were the best content creator, I think you could have been much
Yeah,
better.
now is the golden period. Now is the golden period of content,
Yeah.
honestly.
But the platinum period is in education.
Yeah. Agreed.
So that's where I've gone. And I'm okay.
Yeah, great storyteller, I must tell you. But on that monetization, we discussed about the OTT, but even on the advertising, in terms of the, let's say the money control, still gets, I think, probably more viewers than Economic Times, but hardly gets anything. Why is that even in India today, 90% of the advertising dollar is going to Facebook, Google, Yahoo? But why is that nobody's getting that right? Why is that advertising dollar?
It's very, very early. It's very, very early. Again, call me rose-tinted, but we all tend to see the revenue side of the balance sheet. Has anyone seen the cost side of a balance sheet in a digital business? Do you know the costs are a fraction of what they are for a legacy medium? Do you know that today to reach a global audience on Facebook, I pay 0, I pay nothing? Do you know that if Times of India has to reach its newspaper to New York, what it's going to cost them? So I think everyone looks at the revenue side, but we forget the cost side. There is a straight saving on the cost side. The cost at which we are running the Quint is a fraction of the cost at which we were running CNN IBN. Fraction. So I think it's very early, very, very early in the game because we are just beginning to get audiences. We're just beginning to get revenues. I think this whole thing will take a little time. I've seen the time when we launched CNBC in the late 90s, and people told me, why are you doing a 24-hour business channel? एक है ना NDTV, सब कुछ मिलता है उसमें. कौन देखेगा vertical business channel? Including our friends at CNBC, whose assessment was that India is a max $3 million market. That's the assessment. I have it on a mail, that India is a max $3 million market, so we won't invest. So I said, you guys don't invest, we'll invest. But you give us your brand and your content. And today it's a $100 million market. When this, so my point I'm trying to say there's excessive focus on the revenue side. There is no one's looking at the the subsidies on the cost side. Paper is gone, distribution cost is gone. Global audiences have opened up at the click of a button. Now, can you create content which can keep people engaged? That's the challenge.
But how do you eventually make money there?
You will through advertising.
You
I
think
have
so?
no,
Because
absolutely.
nobody is right now, and that's a big pain point.
Okay, now again.
Who is making money?
Let's put some facts. Let's put some facts. I think some of these things get sidetracked without looking at it. BuzzFeed 3 years ago was, I think, a $10 or $15 million revenue company. What was BuzzFeed's revenue last year? $150 million. That's gone from 10 millions to $150 million in 3 years. Revenues are moving online. But BuzzFeed creates content which keeps their users so heavily engaged.
Sure.
NBC wouldn't pay a $1.5 billion. NBC is not a venture capitalist. NBC is an operating company.
Yeah.
They've taken a 25% stake in BuzzFeed for what? At a $1.5 billion valuation. They are seeing the
Vice is
revenue.
another good example.
Vice,
Vice is
Vox,
great.
Vox.
Absolutely, but these are few and far between. I mean,
No,
but
each-
I guess it is early stages.
Each industry will
For
have
an
a few
early
winners.
stage,
yeah.
I think there are quite a few players that are coming in that.
Sure.
So I think revenues will come. I think we are pronouncing judgment too quickly. As I said, I saw in television, they said revenue nahi aayega. And look at what television companies are making money hand over fist now.